20 years ago, about this time of the month, 20 years ago, 1993, around this time in September, a new show debuted on syndication and mostly on the Disney afternoon. That show, of course, was Bonkers. Now, I've been a fan of the show for 20 years. I've been a fan of the characters, I've been a fan of the episodes, I've been a fan overall. I've been a fan overall. And to look at this time of the year and look at how far things have come, it's kind of surprising that it doesn't even feel, to someone like me or anybody else out there, it doesn't even feel like it's been 20 years. But it has been. Bonkers, the character Bonkers didn't really just start back in 1993, no. He has a long history. He does. You see, originally, the Bonkers slot in position, if you will, was originally meant for Roger Rabbit. But because of a situation, a disagreement, or legal actions, if you will, or basically legal situations, they could not do Roger Rabbit. They could not do a Roger Rabbit cartoon. So instead, they opted to create their own answer to Roger Rabbit, and that, of course, was Bonkers. And instead of possibly doing what would be considered maybe a live-action animated show for the Disney afternoon, they instead opted to go all animated, especially with the fact that one of the lead human characters was perfectly suited for animation. Now, Bonkers originally made his debut in 1992 in the featurette Pedal to the Metal. Now, Pedal to the Metal was a featurette that came on before the Three Ninjas film. So if you went to go see Three Ninjas in the theaters, then you saw Bonkers' debut in Pedal to the Metal. And not just his debut, but the debut of Grumbles, Jitters, and Fawn. You saw the debut, and what better way for them to debut than on the big screen? Then, later on, a few months later, Bonkers, Fawn, Jitters, and Grumbles made their television debut in 1992 on CBS on the Disney variety cartoon Raw Tunage. Now, Raw Tunage only lasted for one season. It only lasted for one season, and two shows spun out of it. Masupalami and, of course, Bonkers. Masupalami ended up staying on CBS Saturday mornings, while Bonkers ended up in syndication as part of the Disney afternoon. Now, in the spring and summer, in mostly the spring and early summer of 1993, Disney Channel continued a tradition where they would give sneak peeks, where they would showcase sneak peeks during the spring and the summer seasons, mostly the spring and early summer portions of the summer season. They would showcase sneak peeks of upcoming shows that would appear on the Disney afternoon. Bonkers was one of those shows. However, the episodes they aired on the Disney Channel were not the episodes that fans saw later on. Instead, the episodes evolved around a character that would show up later on in the Disney afternoon run. And that character was Miranda Wright. So Miranda Wright technically came before Bonkers' more serious partner came into play in the Disney afternoon run. But the behind-the-scenes history on that goes like like this. Originally it was all pinned out for Bonkers and Miranda to be the team right off the bat. No doubt about it. They were originally pinned to be a team together. Unfortunately, only 19 episodes survived. You see, what happened is the rest of the, I guess you could say, 64 or, I was seeing as though there was, I think, 4 variety episodes maybe, I'm not really sure, or 3 of them. Let's just say around 60 to maybe about 60, well, let's just say about 60 to, let's just put it this way. If 19 of the Miranda episodes survived, then let's just say 22, yeah, that's basically an estimation I'm getting, 22 of the other Miranda episodes did not. You see, basically what happened, according to reports and sources you could find online, the other 22 plus episodes, I would probably add one more in there, or should I say other 25 episodes, or whatever you want to call them, came back disastrous. Yeah, they did not come back the way fans were, the way Disney was hoping they would. So what happened is they ended up kicking Dwayne Capizza and Greg Weismer, the guy behind Goggles, off of Bonkers, and they brought in another person called Larry Lantham. Now Larry Lantham decided to reboot Bonkers to the point that that I will give him credit, was probably the right decision. Was the right decision to make. Because basically what happened is he gave Bonkers an origin story. He basically gave him a story of how he became a cop, how he became part of the police force. And the origin story, which you could see either on this VHS or, if you're lucky enough, like I was, as to get the uncut edition, which I did get from a source from somebody somewhere, I can't remember who they were. Get the uncut edition, you will get a good origin story. Or of how he went from being, from how he and his friends went from being the stars of the He's Bonkers cartoons that you had seen on Raw Tunage and in theaters with Pedal to the Metal, to basically being a cop. It's very, very good, very, very well done. And it's got a dark atmosphere to it. It really does. And I don't want to give much away, but let's just say this way. Let's just say this. It's worth watching. It really is. And you can actually find that episode right here on YouTube, maybe even torrent it as well, or go to ioffer.com and you can get the complete series or semi-complete series from other people out there. Now, that's what Larry Lantham did. And after that 2-part episode, or 44-minute premiere, which premiered actually, I think, around this week, the same week the show premiered. It premiered in prime time, and from what I remember, every Disney afternoon primetime premiere would always run for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So the last hour and a half, I think half hour or so, was dedicated to Donald Duck cartoons. Dedicated to Donald Duck, and here's why. Donald Duck actually appears in part 1 of the pilot, of the origin story. He does. Which is kind of basically putting a stamp of approval on the show by Disney by putting one of the established long-term stars into the pilot episode. So that was pretty good. And again, like I said, after the 2-parter, for the next 40 episodes or so, Larry Lantham gave us some very dark at times and some very light-hearted episodes involving Bonkers and what has been dubbed his first official human partner, according to the continuity, Lucky Piquel. Now, Lucky Piquel was basically portrayed as being, let's say, the Eddie Valiant of the show. basically, he doesn't really like tunes that much, but as time goes on, they kind of start to grow on him. Bonkers starts to grow on him a little bit, along with his friends. And because he has a family, which I'll give him credit, I give him credit, really helped out, and a daughter that loves tunes, which really kind of helped connect the kids that were watching as well. Like I said, later on in the episodes, Lucky kind of started to soften and kind of soften up to Bonkers and his friends, which was really cool. Another thing I liked about the Larry Lantham Lucky Pickell episodes, which is I think odd for a lot of people to hear me say, is there were some episodes where you saw cameos by characters, mostly a certain doe, or deer I should say, which was surprising. There was one, I can't think of it, it's one about a wolf stealing, basically kidnapping tunes and placing them in novelty sheep. I can't think of the episode right now. The title of the episode, I'm sure you guys will let me know. But then there was another one called Color Me Pickell. And Fawn, just like in the other one, ended up being one of the tunes captured, which was kind of surprising. But that's the one thing I liked about it. And another thing I liked about it was the episode Tune With No Name. Tune With No Name was basically I consider a very unique episode. Because it basically, to me, I think it was Larry Lantham's way of saying, hey, look, I know perhaps, to me this is just my opinion, but I think it was Larry Lantham's way of saying, hey, I know I don't have the characters of Fawn and Jitters and Grumbles in here, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create this episode which flashes back to a movie that Bonkers and his friends were working on, but didn't get finished. So here's what we're going to do about it. We're going to have Fawn in the flashback, we're going to have Jitters appear cameo-wise in the flashback, and that's what they did. And I thought that was a nice acknowledgement into the Raw Tunage series, as well as to what would, and basically to what would be in the near future. I really liked that. I really did. So, to me, those are the episodes. If you want to see some characters from the Bonkers run on Raw Tunage, and from what would be the Miranda run, those are the three episodes, along with the Going Bonkers pilot, uncut pilot or edited pilot, depending on what your preference is, to see. But speaking of the pilot also got a sequel. It's true. Hard to believe, but it actually got a sequel. The sequel was called New Partners on the Block. Now, this was not just a sequel, it was a transitional episode. You see, the transition was, this was Larry Lantham, and I think I believe he worked with Greg Weismer and Dwayne Capiz on this. I think this is where Greg and Dwayne were brought back for this episode, had all worked together. Because basically, New Partners on the Block transitioned Lucky out and transitioned Miranda in. So basically, Larry Lantham had come up with the idea, and along with the help of Dwayne Capiz, I believe, and Greg Weismer, made New Partners on the Block, which established Miranda Wright as Bonkers' partner. Now, again, like I said, New Partners on the Block was not just, to me, a sequel to Going Bonkers, to the pilot Going Bonkers, but it was also a transitional episode which not only introduced Miranda officially as Bonkers' partner, but helped transition Lucky out of the picture and get fans set up. It's kind of like, I guess you could say it's like a mid-season finale. Like, okay, you're ending the first half of the season with this episode, and then you're going to begin the second half of the season with a new episode. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really cool. Cool for them to do that. And another unique aspect about this, it was they treated this episode just like they did the the pilot, just like they did the origin story. Because you had the CGI rain, you had the characters of Jitters, Fawn, and Grumbles come back, and in my opinion had more speaking time. In my opinion, they had more speaking time. So I really liked that. I really did. They had more speaking time. They had more screen time. It was really, really good. And I remember when I first saw the episode. I remember because the day before this, they aired the episode Ski Patrol. The Ski Patrol, Bonkers in Space, and Raiding Cats and Dogs variety episode, or compilation episode, which also introduced the Rubber Room song, and I guess showed Miranda in there for the first time, officially. I remember that because that episode, that variety compilation episode came on before, and then the following day new partners came on, which was cool. Because I liked it, and when I think about it, the Rubber Room segment kind of established what we were going to get into probably later on. Now Miranda had actually debuted, or actually made a cameo even before this, as Chief Knifke's secretary in one of the episodes. Again, I can't remember the episode's name, but she made a cameo. So that was, I thought, I'll give Larry Latham a lot of credit. I like how he did those subtle hints here and there, and then gave us what we had along with the help of Dwayne Capizza and Greg Weismer, in my opinion, gave us new partners on the block. I really, really have to give him a lot of credit there for doing all that. And then after, of course, New Partners on the Block, which again to me was a sequel to Going Bonkers and was a bit of a mid-season finale, which would lead us into the second half of the season, or the second half of the Bonkers run. Well, we got the Miranda episodes. That's right, we got the Miranda episodes. And the Miranda episodes that we got were the ones that were on Disney Channel, and they first appeared on Disney Channel, which was, to me, pretty good. Pretty good on that part. So I like that. I really like that in many ways, that they allowed us to get those that they allowed those that probably have not seen those episodes yet to see them for the first time and treat them as if they came after new partners. Good strategy on Disney's part. Very good strategy. Now, of course, there were other lucky episodes that were part of the Larry Latham 42 episode run, of course. 42 episodes. If I said 22 earlier, I apologize. But part of the Larry Latham 42 episode run. And again, like I said, if I said 22 earlier, that's my fault. I apologize on that. There were some other episodes as well that came on later on. And if you look at Wikipedia, they're kind of treated like different seasons. Even though they're different mid-season situations, they're treated as different seasons. Like season 3 was the other lucky episode, was the other episodes with Lucky Raquel. Now what's unique about one of these episodes, which is dubbed Luna Tunes, is the intro. The intro to the episode Luna Tunes was a more extended, it was basically a more extended version of Bonkers. It had more lyrics, it had more clips in it. It was basically longer. And I remember sitting down, I believe it was on 94 or something like that when they did this episode. I remember sitting down and watching the episode come on, and I'm thinking, okay, it's the regular intro, right? And all of a sudden they start saying, all these other lyrics. They show Fawn in there, they show Jitters in there, they show Grumbles, they show Fawn, they show Miranda. Of course Miranda was in the original intro, but still, they showed her along, and then of course, like I said, they showed Fawn, they showed Jitters, they showed Grumbles, and it was like, what the heck is this? And then the lyrics were different, and then it was done, and that was the one and only time that intro was ever done. And you know what? I'm not the only one that's looking for it. And I'm not the only one that's still curious about it, still wondering about it. There are others fans out there that are curious about it as well. In fact, you go to toonzone.net or you even Google in rare Bonkers long theme song or something like that. Put in rare Bonkers long theme song or extended theme song, and you will find it. And you will find people talking about it. And I think what one person on TuneZone who was also looking for it, I think this one person on TuneZone kind of has a point, if you will. They believe that this theme song, this version of the theme song, was meant, and hear me out, was meant for the New Partners on the Block episode. But when I saw it, it was broadcast during the episode Luna Tunes. And I was wondering what the heck was going on. You know, I was wondering what the heck was going on. And like I said, I think there's one person at toonzone.net at the forums, and again, just Google in, just type in rare Bonkers theme song. I think this one person is right about one thing. Is right about one thing, and that is that extended version of the theme song was meant for the New Partners on the Block episode. I truly, truly believe that. I truly, truly believe that. When I read, because I was just thinking about it today, as well, and I was looking it up, and when they said this, and when this person said it, or another person I think responding to him said it, it just clicked. It just clicked. It's like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense that an intro like that would be meant for a more special episode, for a more specific episode, and not just an episode out of the blue, not just a random regular episode. I think, again, that intro was meant to be for New Partners on the Block. I truly, when I think about it and reading what those people had, what those other posters had to say, I truly believe that to be true. I really do. But anyway, if anybody knows where we can get an MP3 version of that extended song, let us know. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, the third or mid portion of this, basically the third season, if you will, or the third of the season, or the third part of the season, was the rest of the Lucky episodes, including, I think, a Christmas episode, Miracle of the 34th Precinct of something. And then the fourth part, the last part of the 65 episode run, was the Miranda episodes that I think were the other Miranda episodes that had survived, the ones that had not yet been broadcast, the ones that were new to television for the first time. That's where the fourth part. So basically, if you look at Wikipedia, this show was basically separated into 3 different seasons, but actually 2. 2 different seasons. Basically, it was one season, but it was separated when you collect all the episodes together of both Human Partners with Bonkers. You had one season which was all Lucky, and then the rest of the season which was all Miranda. Now the Miranda ones, some people have been critical about, but I've actually liked them because they are lighthearted. They're more lighthearted. They do have the dark moments. Do not deny that. They do have the dramatic moments. Do not deny that. But they are more lighthearted. The more I guess you could say not only lighthearted, but the more like, the more, and I'm not trying to derail what Larry Latham did with Lucky Bacall, because the animation for him was, him being animated the way he was, made him seem like a human tune himself, if you get what I'm saying. But with the Miranda episodes, it was more like anything was possible. anything was possible. Anything was done. And Miranda's character, I think this is why there are fans that like her, and there is a strong majority that like her. There are reasons she has not a big fan base, but a decent sized fan base, is because she's more acceptable to the Tuna antics of Bonkers and his friends. She's more acceptable. I mean, even to the point that if they had, emphasis had, done an episode to where let's say Von Drake invented something that would allow a human to experience what it's like to be a Toon for a day or so, that she would step up to the plate and want to know exactly how it feels to be a Toon. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, end of story. But again, like I said, that's only if they had done something like that. But again, this is why she has that kind of a fan base, because she was more acceptable, she was more tolerant. In fact, there were times, if you look at the episode, The Toon That Ate Hollywood, she was not just more acceptable, but she would actually use some of the Toon tactics, some of the very Toony tactics around. In fact, when Bonkers, at the end of that episode, complimented her on being funny, she says it's probably due to the company she hangs around. Basically, she's being influenced. She's more acceptable of being influenced by the ways of Bonkers and his friends, the Toony ways of him and his friends, which I actually like. I actually like that. I really do. Now, Bonkers didn't just, remain. Bonkers just didn't. Bonkers' adventures didn't just stay on television. No, he actually had other adventures as well. He had a joke book, which I have. As a matter of fact, maybe I can go find that. Sorry about that. Had to find what I was talking about. But he had a joke book, of course, which is right here. Stand it up a bit. And of course, he had a series of video games as well. He had a series of video games, which was kind of cool. So he had a joke book, he had a series of video games. He also appeared in the Disney Adventure magazines. Now the Disney Adventure magazines, the comics, the Bonker comics on there, they were unique in their own right. They really were. And I'll talk about that in part 2.